All right, just testing, testing. All right, we're good. All right, welcome back to the stream, everybody. So if you guys were with us a couple weeks ago, you'll know that there was one stream that Laura kind of took the reins on. Well, guess whose turn it is today? That would be me. To,
Yay.
so today I decided, well, let's talk about something that's kind of close to home for me because I live in the area, which is the Ashland UFO incident that occurred back in 1967. But before we get into too much detail, I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself real quick. I am PhantomGB. I am a VTuber. I am into the paranormal, have a passion about it, and I also do gaming on the side. And with that, I'm going to pass it on over to Laura now.
Hi, my name is Laura, and I've been experiencing and researching and a paranormal investigator for just around 20 plus years. So, yeah, I don't know. I love the paranormal, all about it, even things that I've never experienced before. It's fun. All right,
Yeah.
go for it, Chris.
And I'm Chris, and I've been in this field for quite some time. I do readings, clearings, things of that nature.
All right, good deal, good deal. All right, so I'm just going to talk a little bit. We have a few things we're going to show on tonight's stream, but I just kind of want to give you a quick rundown on kind of what this is about. So on September 3rd in 1967, there was an officer in Ashland, Nebraska by the name of Herb Shermer. Hopefully I pronounced his name right because I suck at pronouncing names. He was out one night doing his normal patrol and came across a UFO. And according to his reports, this whatever being was in this UFO actually landed and spoke with him. So that's the gist of it. I don't really want to get into too much detail. There is an article. I forgot to link it in the description. I will do that. I'll leave a description to the article if anyone wants to read it, but that's the gist of it.
I'm going to go ahead and share that picture while you tell the story.
Okay. All right, so let me go through. Okay, so in Ashland, Nebraska, on the cold morning of December 3rd, 1967, a young police officer named Herb Shermer, who I've said, saw something that would change his life forever and start discussion about UFO sightings. And now I will point out the fact, we live here in Nebraska, and I really don't hear too much about sightings here in this area. I don't know about you guys. Do you guys ever hear about too many UFO sightings in our area?
I haven't as of late. However, I used to produce or help produce a local radio station that had a paranormal show on there, and the host of the show, Scott Colborn, he's now since passed, but him and I believe someone else actually founded the group called MUFON or something like that. Basically, it's like an organization where you can report UFO sightings. And he knew all of the sightings. He told me, actually, I want to say it was just a couple years before he passed. I was pretty good friends with him, and he told me about UFO sightings that came in from right there in downtown Lincoln, Nebraska, which I thought was really unique. So I think there are quite a few. I just don't think we hear about them as much.
That's true. That's true. You know what? Before I continue on, I do want to mention one thing that I remember when I was in junior high and I had a science teacher. His name was Mr. Man, actually. And we actually got onto the topic of UFOs. This was back in the 90s. And he made a joke that still sticks with me to this day. He's like, you know why no one ever shows Nebraska talking about UFOs? He's like, imagine what kind of person you would get. He'd be like, you would get that one hillbilly out in the country that'd be like, that there UFO was 50 barns high, let me tell you. That's probably why you don't see too much on the news about us.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I would or we had some UFO sightings when I was living in Lincoln. Going out to where the Lincoln Air Force Base is, I saw a black triangle being escorted by 2 planes. So while we were living out there, and that was in the 90s when I spotted that. Late
Interesting.
90s. Yeah.
That is interesting.
I know in the 90s, my dad and my uncle, who helped my grandparents farm, and actually they still continue to help the farm and raise cattle and that, they spoke of in the late 80s about how there were a lot of farmers, including themselves, where they would go out in a pasture to check on the cows to make sure they were good, and they would find cows, especially calves, which had been mysteriously drained of blood with no puncture wounds anywhere, and their tongues, I believe, were cut out, and there was weird burn marks in certain locations. I don't remember all of it off the top of my head now, but yeah, I remember them talking about that and getting a little freaked out by it.
That is that is great, and that happened. That happened here in Nebraska.
Yeah, it happened between Lincoln, Nebraska, and Seward County, which is the next county over to the west. So
interesting. I actually didn't know about that.
Yeah, there were like 3 or 4 farmers in that area that my family is pretty close with, and they all reported at least one cow that they had found in that same kind of time frame where something like that had happened. And I'm trying to remember who they reported it to, or if they even said anything. I don't remember the fine details. Just the only thing that I remember was I think that was kind of around the craze of the chupacabra. Like there was kind of like a big thing for that. And my dad and my uncle started talking about it, and how they were like, yeah, we found these calves that there's no reason why they wouldn't have, like, they were already born, they were just running free in the pasture. And we've had mountain lions and cougars, and which is the same thing, and coyotes and that kind of thing take calves before. However, they usually they don't leave the whole animal. They usually end up eating it or eating parts of it. They don't drain it of blood. And for some reason,
that is always wild to me too, because it's not the first time I've heard about cattle having blood drained from them and there's no puncture wounds. It's like kind of makes you wonder how if these aliens are coming down and doing that. First of all, why are they doing that? And second of all, how are they doing that? What kind of technology could do something like that?
I don't know. And the other thing that, like, I didn't really think about until now, but I mean, somebody could, I guess, play devil's advocate and say, oh, when the tongue was cut out, that's how it lost the blood. However, there was no blood on the ground around it. It looked like the cow literally laid down and fell asleep.
So I don't know why it made me think of this, but there's this game called Legacy of Kain where you play as a vampire, and one of the abilities you have is you could just literally like wave your arm at an enemy and then just kind of telepathically pull the blood from them to yourself. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's really cool.
Right? So it makes you wonder, like, what if there's like a telepathic thing going on?
I don't know. I kind of noticed that, like, vampires are on the rise. We might have to do a show about vampires. And maybe it was something like that. Maybe it was an alien. I don't know what could have... Maybe it was just some creature that was making its migration through Nebraska at that moment. And, because they never had anything like that happen again. So...
Interesting. What,
And you guys brought up vampires briefly on GAC. Bjorn and I, Bjorn Ragnarsson and I did a episode called "The Vampires of Hollywood," basically, or we called it like Hollywood. So we did one on some of the vampire types and things of that nature. But the cattle mutilation, the fact you brought that up, I didn't see that in Nebraska. I did see it in Arizona.
It's
Yeah.
highly possible. Also, like I said, my family, they're really private about things like this. Like my father would never come on the show to talk about it with us, unfortunately. Um, he would tell me and I could obviously relay the message, but like he would never come on to talk about it. They're pretty private, so it's highly possible they didn't say anything to anyone and just burnt, like, got rid of the carcass, basically. But I want to say that they actually had a vet come out because they were concerned more or less that it was actually some kind of illness or sickness that was going through, and they had other cows that were getting ready to give birth in the coming days. Because I don't think the cow or the calf was very old. I think it was maybe a week or two old, so it was pretty young.
Interesting. Like I said, I know I've watched videos before on aliens and UFOs, and a lot of them have very similar stories when it comes to like cattle and stuff like that. Like kind of the same thing. Blood was drained, tongues were cut out. It's always the same thing.
Well, and the other thing that I remember, which kind of makes me believe more of the alien theory, is that there were burn marks on certain parts of the body. And I want to say, oh, I mean, this could be me just getting my stories mixed up because I've heard of these cases before, but I want to say it did something with the genitalia, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, they do. They actually removed, and from what I understand, the aliens that do it are removing certain organs and certain parts and the blood because they use it in their genetics to combine with their own genetics. It's basically a combination between that and human DNA, and they need something in that blood to make combining theirs with ours possible.
Why is it that there's always something that reminds me of something nerdy? Because now I'm thinking about the Dan to Dan anime, and Laura knows what I'm talking about.
I love Dan to Dan.
Right. The first scene where they take Momo and then they're like, "We want your banana organ." You remember that?
God, yes.
Good anime, by the way, Chris. If you haven't watched it, you should.
Oh, you need to watch it. I almost want. I want to start that from the beginning again now.
Oh, have you seen season 2?
No.
You should. Disappointed. Anyway, another discussion for another time. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of finish telling a little bit, kind of a summary of the story, and then I'll kind of get into some other stuff around it. So anyway. So Herb Schumer saw a strange object in the road ahead of him. The lights were flashing in the dark at first. He thought it was a truck. So then he turned on his highlights. He was shocked when the object flew into the night sky. Schumer later wrote in his police report, "I saw a flying saucer," and you can see there's a picture where he was showing where he actually drew it.
Yeah, I have that picture actually. I believe it's the picture. Sorry, let me right here. Yep.
All right, and then he said and he detailed in his report. So I saw a flying saucer at the intersection of Highway 6 and 63, which isn't far from here, really. This was a short and confused account of the event. You won't believe it. During the night, he had a terrible headache and buzzing sound in his head that wouldn't go away. The next day, he found a red bump just below his left ear, which made the puzzle even more important. Now, that's actually new. I didn't know. See, as I'm kind of reading through this article for the first time, so that's interesting. And we are going to play his. There's a recording of him giving his own account. I believe they had him under hypnosis when they did it. So, we'll play that here later because a lot of this I'm sure he'll go through in that audio. One quick thing before we get into that, I want to talk about one thing where it's actually kind of celebrated now in a way. So my understanding is there for a long time, he was ridiculed. He lost his job as a police officer, because no one could take him seriously. But now here we are years later, and now there's whole themes around it. So Ashland, Nebraska, where this took place, has what's called, every year in July, they have what's called stirrup days. I've actually been to these myself. In fact, I was at the particular one where the alien theme was going on. That's how I learned about this. And if you want to, go ahead and real quick, Laura, if you want to bring up that little news segment where they talk about it.
Sure thing. Let me see about doing that. I think this is it. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, we're gonna get. Sorry.
Yeah, after the ads. Gotta love those ads.
Ashland Stirrup Days are back and bigger than ever after a year without them due to the pandemic. The town's largest community event runs the entire weekend with a different main attraction each day. This afternoon, over 400 classic cars line the streets on top of other
Yeah, that's a
activities
common thing
like
they
the
do
craft
every
show.
year, too.
This year's theme is Alien Encounter, with many local businesses joining in on the fun. Coordinator Bradley Pfeiffer explained the backstory behind this theme.
Back in 1967, December 3rd, 2 a.m., an Ashland police officer was abducted. It actually is, from what we can tell, in the top 10 in the country, most credible alien abductions. So that's kind of what our theme is today. We're doing tribute to him. We've got a mock police car with his picture next to it. So that's where we're at with the theme.
Pfeiffer added that this weekend is one of the best turnouts they've ever had, to the point where vendors actually ran out of food yesterday.
Wow.
Yep, that did happen because I was at that one. So fun little fact too. I was actually there, so I saw that little mock car they had in person with the picture.
Cool.
The t-shirts that they showed, my mother-in-law actually has one of those right now.
I was gonna say I really like the t-shirt a lot.
Yeah. And there was also a comic book. That's how I learned there was a comic book actually written about this.
Oops. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I actually meant I meant to show the picture of the comic book.
Oh, it's all good. And just wait for it to come up here because it's still loading. But yeah, there was a comic book. Actually, I'm holding one in my hand right now. Yep, there it is. Made by some independent comic book creator. I think it was actually one guy, but goes by, and let me open up, by Bombshell Comics. Michael Georda or something like that. It's kind of hard for me to read, but that was who wrote this. So he must have found the story interesting enough to do a comic book over it. They were selling these at that particular event that they had in Ashland. So my mother-in-law was gracious enough. She bought one, and she was gracious enough to lend it to me, because I'm actually going to read through this thing. I'm kind of curious. There's a lot of information about it. I'm sure that you could find one of these on eBay or look it up if you're interested, but I find it very interesting that it went as far as having a comic book about it too.
Yeah, I'm really curious about if the story is fairly accurate on the comic book or in the comic book.
As soon as I have a chance to read it, and after, kind of digging, because I've done a lot of research on this case already, so I'm going to read through it and I want to kind of see how most of it lines up. My understanding is it sticks to the facts and it's pretty accurate. Like it takes into the officers' accounts on everything.
That's awesome.
All right. So
yeah, I find it really cool that this encounter actually is one of the top 10
most credible,
most creditable. So
right, because the guy was a police officer. He would have had to have known his job was someone on the line telling a story like that, you would think. So why would he just why would someone just make that up?
And And you wonder about the stories that the people haven't talked about, because I know there's probably plenty more of them that were not spoken about because people were afraid of ridicule or something like
All
that.
right.
And I always tell people that if you see something like this, just talk about it. You're going to find more and more
Well,
people acting.
On that note, more and more people are coming forward and talking more because, now that the government has flat out said, yes, aliens are real, it's like you almost can't deny it anymore.
No, you can't. No. And no matter what narrative they have in play, and usually there's layers and layers of narratives when it comes to the government, but you don't know how many deep that goes. But you can at least bank on the alien thing at the very least,
Right?
Because it covers it for so long.
When I was growing up, me and my dad used to have this conversation, and of course, I grew up in a very heavily kind of religious household, especially with my mom. However, one thing that I know they both disagreed on, and I agreed with my dad on, is, and this was his take. He's like, why would we be out of this entire universe? Why would we be the only intelligent life in this vast universe, of space and all these planets?
Right.
It doesn't make any logical sense. And my mom used to argue that no, God made us special. She took the Christian angle. She's like, well, God says we're special. We're the only ones. And my dad's like, I don't buy that. That was the one thing he disagreed on. He's like, he refused to accept the fact that we were the only rock with the type of beings like us on it.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
That's
and now I'm beginning to hear where a lot of Christians believe that they do believe in aliens, but they believe that they're demons. I don't think that that's necessarily true either. I mean, I think that there's probably, just like humans, there's going to be aliens, I hate that term, but people from other planets, other dimensions, whatever, that are nice, and there's going to be some that aren't so nice.
Right.
It's just what happens.
I've always been pretty convinced too that, life on other planets, there could be other actual humans on these other planets too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, actually, didn't they find last year or year before a planet that is within our own galaxy, or just right outside of our own galaxy, that has all the same markings as Earth? The only difference is I think it has a slightly higher oxygen level, but it's not enough to, excuse me, all of us could live there, basically.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of there's several people that maybe this is worthy of another show, but of course, but there's a couple other people that have written books on the subject, like Woodrow Derenberger, Visitors from Lonulus, for instance, said he actually went to another planet where it was all human-like people that were living there. Some were just slightly taller, and some were slightly shorter. It was the same there. And his daughter had the same encounters. Some people have passed their books off as fiction, but now that's probably worthy of a show. It's in and of itself is the Visitors from Lonulus case, but in the '60s, but with Indrid Cold. But yeah, there's a lot of cases of like most of the aliens looking like us, or they're drastically different, like insectoid, gray, or reptilian, or something of that nature. But 9 times out of 10, in some of these instances, it's either one of the really, really extremely alien forms, or it's this human-like form. So most of the time, it's human anymore.
So, I mean, in the year 2026, which we are in,
mm-hmm.
In 2020, a bunch of other countries came out and said, yes, there are aliens out there. This is true. Now, just in the last week, President Barack Obama actually was asked in an interview, are the aliens real? He didn't say no. He said, well, if there are, I have not seen them. And I believe I think he did say there are aliens. However, I have not seen them. Is I believe what his wording was.
I believe that because I saw that and I believe that's what he said.
And today or yesterday, I can't remember if it was February 19th or February 20th, which is today's date. President Trump actually has released UFO reports that were given out, and they were creditable reports, like from different people. And I think in the last 2 years, 3 years, a lot of like air pilots have come out and said, I'm breaking my silence. I saw something
Well, yeah, there's been many reports
out there.
of pilots seeing, like, shiny ball or disc-like objects flying past them, and that
Yeah.
numerous reports from all kinds of different pilots.
So I really think at this point, like, it's a less of a, is there such thing, to a, okay, what are we dealing with?
Right. Yeah, I think the question more is now, like, it's less, are they real? It's more of, we know they're real now. What are they?
Yeah, and what do they want? Yeah.
Like, why are they here? Why are they hovering around watching us all the time? Why do they take people and do these things? It'd be kind of nice to know.
Yeah, having been in alien abduction scenarios myself, there's certain ones, and I came to find out there's a big dividing line here. Some aren't always abducting. Sometimes they're actually helping you out from some of the other things that were around you. Then you have some of the nasty ones. But also, a lot of the ones that are flying around in the sky at the moment are actually more homegrown. Like the ones that the pilots were seeing, those were actually a fusion between alien technology and our own. It's just that our own people figured out a lot of those Tic Tac ones are ours. They were built by some of the corporations like Lockheed Martin and a few of them. They just
that does bring me to another point too. Like, our technology has, like, it just, like, ramped up like crazy in just the last 40 years. There is no way we did this on our own. No possible way.
I think that there's probably a bunch of other technology that we were given and shown. Actually, I know that there is, and unfortunately, whether you want to believe or don't want to believe, our government here in the US, at least, and in most of the bigger countries, they want to make money off of it, so they're not going to release or ever tell any of us that they have the technology to do all these things, because it would basically cut back on how much we spend on certain resources, Yeah. So
it always comes down to greed, but there's so much we could be doing
1,000%.
There's so much we could be doing to better our society, but what holds us back the most is the almighty dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly. And they also have, with this technology, they literally have the ability not only to change the propulsion we use, for cars instead of all fossil fuels. They literally have replicator tech, like on Star Trek. Anything you see on Star Trek, that's actually a legitimate thing that a lot of these races have, and a lot of also our own people have. Even if they had reclamation technology, which is garbage cleanup, it would basically change the face of this planet literally overnight if they'd release that one. That is, it's reclamation replication. That is literally taking your own crap and then making food out of it, like the Philosopher's Stone, changing one thing to another. And then you have the free energy, or the 0 point energy devices that could power an entire city. None of these industries, like fossil fuel or even electricity, would stand a chance after that.
No.
This is why, like, the whole story around Star Trek, the whole basis of Star Trek is they don't have a monetary system anymore. That they just do what they do for the betterment of mankind. Sometimes I kind of
honestly. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I say sometimes I think it would be nice to have that more of a mentality like that. Like, I understand we probably need some sort of way to trade, but wouldn't it be nice if we stopped worrying about money and just did what we could to make everyone's lives more enriched?
I think we will get to that point. I just don't think as a collective we are awakened enough for that. I think that there are more people that are becoming in the terms of like 3D, 5D, more enlightened, more woken up to the potential for all of this, that than there were just even 5 to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
However, I don't think that I don't think we're going to see it in our lifetime, unfortunately. Maybe our children's lifetime, but I don't think our lifetime will see it.
Probably
Maybe bits
not.
and pieces, but I don't think that it's gonna be to
Or
what
maybe it will start to
we
happen
want.
towards the tail end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking Joanna's grandson, he's 4. I'm thinking he's going to enjoy it.
Yeah,
And hopefully maybe my boys can enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
I was thinking we can go ahead and let's play that video where he goes through and talks about his experience, and we'll discuss that as we go through it.
Alrighty. Let me know when you can see.
Yep. So right here, go ahead and pause it real quick. I was going to say, this was actually the photo. You see what he's holding in his hand, that paper with the UFO? That's actually what I was referring to. That's what he drew.
Oh, I apologize. Okay.
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll watch it.
Oops. Oh, for crying out loud. All right, I'm just going to hit the play button.
You got it. You're good.
Oh, I did hit the play. What is going on?
Actually, I think was the time that this happened, but right around 2:20, I was just checking 2 gas stations. I left the 2 gas stations, I left the last gas station that I checked to pull onto the highway, and I was making radio contact with the Wahoo Sheriff's Office because we didn't have radio communications available in the city at nighttime because we couldn't afford it. So I told them that everything was all secure. I pulled onto the highway, and putting the mic down, I seen some flashing lights in front of me. First appeared to me to be a truck, I thought. As I got closer and put the high beams of the lights on the patrol car on, this object started raising. These lights started raising up in the air to about 40 feet. I think I was something like 50 yards from this. These lights were flashing, and as they got bigger, as I got close to it, it seemed like they were red flashing lights coming out of a porthole, which sort of circled the craft. It had like a catwalk going around the center of it. It was shaped like a football, very metallic, like a very shiny bumper, if you polished a bumper on a car. It had sort of a reddish, orangish glow coming from beneath it. And then there was this white flash that came on to me in the patrol car. It felt as if we were being pulled. And then it was being pulled. We were being pulled up the side of this bank to the left of the road and up toward this fill, the car and I felt nothing. At first I felt kind of stunned and shocked, and then I felt sort of tingly. And as the car and I moved up the bank to the top of this fill, this object landed, and some legs came out, and it sat down. I was just sitting there really motionless. I couldn't move. I may have even had my mouth open. I don't remember, being probably scared. This hatch came open, and this light came out of the hatch, and this form came down and looked the form of a human being. And this form started walking toward the patrol car with an object in both its hands. Appeared to be hands. And he was walking straight toward the patrol car. As he was doing this, another form came out and started walking toward the patrol car also. As this being walked up to the front of the patrol car with this object in his hand, which looked sort of a squarish oval type. It looked like it had a lens in front of it. And the only thing I could think was, oh my God, what's going to happen now? And this green light came out all over the car, and then sort of went back in again. And I felt a sensation then, and then I felt nothing, like I was just there and that was it. and this other being started walking up toward the car. I was sitting straight, looking straight. I couldn't even move my head. And he walked up to the car, and the window was about 3/4 of the way rolled down, and he had an object in his hand, a silver object that looked like a big pencil with a round ball on the end of it. And he pressed this against the side of my neck, which I felt some pain from, and said, ouch. Then he stepped back, and I sort of sat there, and he opened up the car door and just went like this. And I sort of raised up out of the patrol car, and I was looking at him, and he was looking at me. And he said, are you the watchman of this town? And my response was, yes, sir. He said, come with me, watchman. And we started moving toward the spacecraft, and it felt like I was walking on air. We got up to the hatch to where you went inside of the spacecraft, and we just sort of like floated up into the first level. And he says to me, watchman, come with me. And we were in a circular room, and there were a lot of cylinders about 4.5 feet high and about 2 feet wide that circled the whole room. And it had sort of like a cable running through it, 2 cables running through these. They looked like tall batteries to me. And then in the center of this room was a huge cocoon, or, like this shaped object, was spinning, and it was giving off colors like the rainbow, and was about 20 feet long. And it seemed like these cables were coming up and connecting to these 2 block things that came down on each end of it. And we walked the complete circle in there. And I said, what is this? And he said, this is how our craft operates. And he said it operates on electrical reversible magnetism. And then I looked at him.
Pause it real quick.
And he said, come with me, watchman.
Isn't it interesting how a lot of what he's talking about kind of very much lines up with everything we were just talking about before we even started watching it?
Also, the other thing, so these drawings were made during this hypnosis, and this up here at the top, the big long thing, underneath the words Shermer's drawings were made under hypnosis, that apparently was the mothership. Now look at the symbols that are drawn on that ship. I don't know about you guys, and I don't know enough about Egypt at all, but those to me look like hieroglyphs.
They actually, I was just thinking that when we were watching it, because I was kind of looking through this, and I'm like, I was thinking the same thing you were. I'm like, those look like hieroglyphs that were probably...
Or Greek.
Yeah, this might be... This
like
is...
a weird combination almost.
It kind of does. I'm almost wondering if maybe that's the name of their ship.
Oh,
yeah,
maybe.
Also, some of these races sometimes will use a form of shorthand too that looks like that. Like each symbol means an idea, then read together as a sentence. Sometimes it's a descendant language of some of the ones we use.
There's another language that does that exact thing. It's Japanese.
Yeah. There's several that are like that out there, and I believe that's where originally the Japanese.
So when you look at the Japanese symbols, for example. They are not letters. They are like each symbol is a whole word. It gets a little complicated because they actually have symbols for both. They have symbols for whole words, and then they have symbols for letters. So they kind of mix them up. So like if you see the title of an anime, for example, and you know how it probably looks shorter than our English letters do. That's because in one of those symbols is just a whole word. So. Fun little fact there.
Yeah, and also also there was another incident called the Rendlesham Forest incident where it was very similar, where a craft was seen with hieroglyphs on it as well.
Interesting, but yeah, like this story, the story is definitely really lining up with a lot of stuff we were talking about, especially when they were like when he was talking about coming on to the craft and he was talking about the cables. I'm thinking, oh, that's the engine, and I bet it's probably ran electrically. And then sure enough, that's what he was told. So
Yeah. The other thing is, he didn't go into detail yet, really too much about what this being really looked like. But if you kind of read on the screen for this, it sort of tells you what he said he saw of the being. And I know that I've seen YouTube videos out there. You would have to Google it yourself to find out, because I don't know the YouTube video off the top of my head. However, I know that there are YouTube videos that scientists have created before that will say, this is what you would look like if you lived on planet Mars. This is what you would look like if you were able to live on planet Neptune. Like things like that. And it took our normal bodies, what we consider normal here, and it did things like that, where your head might be super big, but the rest of your body isn't. Or your eyes might be super big, but the rest of your body isn't. Or, whatever the case may be, due to the fact that either A, lighting of the planet, temperature, the gravity, all the spinning force,
Right.
which I guess is more
So
gravity
really what it
anyway.
comes down to is
different things.
this could go back to what I mentioned earlier. This could have been technically another human, just another a human from another planet. Maybe.
So I actually had this thought when we started this little video of what if all aliens were nothing more than humans from the future that are coming back to
I've thought about
just
that.
look.
I've thought about that before. So that's a all possibility. Here's another thing too that no one has even mentioned yet. He could apparently understand what they were saying.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, but it's all like telepathically.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
And telepathy can translate languages. And from what I also found out, 9/10 of also what people are thinking is alien here is actually ultra terrestrial, not extraterrestrial, which means parallel universes, other timelines, things of that nature. From what I understand it, there's aliens coming through, but through as well. But that's only like maybe 5% of what people are seeing, from what I understand. Most of them are coming in from other timelines and other world lines, things of that nature. So yeah, that actually fits.
Interesting.
All right, let's go ahead and we'll continue.
All right.
And we walked back over to where I came up in with him, and this glass sheet came down. And we stepped onto this, which I felt, and we moved up into the second level of the craft. And lo and behold, I've never seen anything like it before in my life, with so many different types of instrument panels and computer type things that you just wouldn't believe it. This cone thing was right in the center of the floor. You could see half of it from on top and half of it from the bottom, but it gave off a red glow that sort of not flashed, but kind of died down and then came back up again. And he says, "Watchman, come with me." And we walked over to a screen that was up on the side, I say wall. And it was sort of like a TV screen. And he pressed some buttons and I guess flipped some switches. I wasn't paying too much attention to him. I was looking at the screen. And some stars in the sky appeared on there. And he put his finger up like this and he said, "This is where we're from, Watchman." And then he put his hand back down. He didn't say where, and he didn't say the name. He just pointed. The purpose that we're here is to get electricity. And there was another being standing a little distance away, and the man turned to him, and they both looked at each other, and he started depressing buttons. And he says, "Watch, watchman." And there was this antenna on the outside of the spacecraft which angled toward a power unit, and this bolt went out, a color I've never seen before in my life. I don't even think I could describe it. Went out and came back, and this stayed like this for about 3 minutes, and then it went off. And he turned and looked at me, and I felt, as I was getting a very, very, an awful lot of roll of input of words that I couldn't understand. And he reached up and he touched me on the shoulder, and he felt real when he touched me. And I think at that time I did touch him, and he felt real to me. And he says, "Watchman, come with me." We walked back over to the exit, I'll say, where we came up, and the glass sheet came down again, and we went up into the third part of the craft, which was the observation deck, he said. As we stepped off, he said, "Watchman, come with me." And we walked over, and we were standing there looking out of a big plate glass window type thing. And there was a control panel right in front of it, and there were 2 chairs that looked like dentist chairs. You know, I've been to the dentist chair, but really a superstructure of a chair. Better than a dentist chair. And we looked out the window, and I could see this one being walking back and forth by where my patrol car was. And I think I said, "Wow." And he turned to me, and he said something I don't understand. And he said some more things that I didn't understand or couldn't make out. And I still don't. And then he pointed his hand toward the plate glass window, as I say, refer to the stars out there. And he says to me, "Watchman, one day you yourself will see the universe as I have." And he reached up and he touched me on the shoulder. Like this, you know, like grabbing you on the shoulder, like a man does, to steer you away. And he says, "Come with me, watchman." And then he stopped. And he said, "Watchman." And I turned around like this to look at him. And it felt like I was getting more input of something that I couldn't understand. And then he says, "Watchman, come with me." We walked over, and we went down all the way out of the craft. As we got outside, this other being started walking back toward the spacecraft and boarded it as we were walking toward my patrol car. And we stopped right by the patrol car, and I turned to look at him, and he was looking at me. And then again, it felt like I was receiving input of words of some kind that I couldn't understand. And he sort of lifted his hand, and then he turned and walked back to the spacecraft, floated up inside. This catwalk thing started spinning. The lights started flashing off and on. This red-orangish glow came out from beneath it. It started lifting up in the air, and I guess it got about 100 feet high and just shot straight out of sight. Let me tell you, I was scared. I started feeling me again. When I was aboard the spacecraft, I had hardly no feeling at all. My body was tingling. I was perspiring. I was hot. I felt nauseated. I got back into the patrol car. I turned it around, and I headed back for the police station. On the way to the police station at a high rate of speed, I tried to make communication with Wahoo Sheriff's Office, and it appeared the radio was dead. I got to the station, I jumped out of the car, and a fast walked into the police station, and I noticed that the wall clock in the police station said 1 minute after 3 a.m. Well, I went directly to the bathroom. I have to go to the bathroom but to drink water because I was hot. And I walked back into the main room of the police station. We had a real small police station. It was about 20 by 20. And I sat there at the table, and I lit a cigarette, and I said, wow, what the hell happened? Something happened to me. Did I really see a flying saucer? Did this really happen to me? I looked at my report log, and I remembered through all the training and everything I went through that regardless of the nature or what it was, put it in your report book because you just might need it. So I looked at my report book and I got my pen out and I wrote, at 2:30 a.m. December 3rd, 1967, I saw a UFO at junction 6 and 63, believe it or not. About 6:30 that morning, a fellow officer came in, and I explained to him what happened to me. And the fellow officer says, I believe you heard. One time I was on my way to Wahoo, Nebraska, and I was driving down the road. I looked over. Lo and behold, there were two UFOs sitting in a field, and these little green men were out there walking around it, waving at me. I said, sure, Paul. And he says, I don't think you should tell anybody, Herb, because I don't think anybody's going to believe you. Matter of fact, you're going to lose your job if you tell the people. But I said, Paul, it's the truth. He said, well, you know, he said, a lot of people won't even accept the truth. I said, well, I'll wait for the chief. He says, no, I'll go on home. So I went home, and I really felt like everything was drained completely out of my body, and I laid down on the couch, and as I laid there, I started getting a buzzing feeling in my head. And it felt like I had pressure on my body. I couldn't move my arms. I couldn't, you know how you try to open your mouth and you can't say help? I was trying to say help, you know. And then I went off to sleep and the phone rang and it was the chief. And the chief says, get your butt down to the station right now. What is this? You mean you've seen a UFO? I said, I don't feel good. I'm sick and I'm not coming down to the police station. He said, I'll be right over. So the next thing, TV came in, press came in, you know, newspapers, radio stations, and telephone calls started coming in. 2 days later, the ridicule started coming in, believe me. And I had a man run 3 blocks, huffing and puffing. He owned the Goodyear tire shop there in Ashland, Nebraska, and he went to me, Herb, if you ever see another flying saucer and it lands, you tell him I want to sell him a set of tires. The phone rang, this is the planet Mars, you know. I mean, really ridiculous stuff. I think, though, being here in Florida, one of the neatest walkings I got was right out here in the lobby. The gentleman out there selling books. And I walked up, and he says, Herb Sherman? I said, yes. My name is so-and-so, and I was taken aboard a police cruiser. I thought that was neat. The United States Air Force Condon Committee, Blue Book Project, or however you want to say it, investigating team came down to Ashland, Nebraska to investigate me.
He legit just said Project Blue Book. Did you catch that?
Yeah, I did catch that.
Interesting.
Yeah, isn't it? One thing too, before we finish this off too, something I find interesting. He was talking about the light that was kind of like, he said it wasn't a solid light; it was kind of like dimming on and off. We have that now. They're called RGB lights.
Mhm.
We have lights that can do that now. They didn't have that back in 1969.
Oh,
Yeah, we got a lot of this from some of these instances, and then eventually it was released to us via some corporation or somebody who sold
the lights that my computer set up can do exactly that right now. But back in
interesting.
But like back in 1967, of course, they didn't have lights that could do that. I don't think they had dimming lights back then.
So he was 20 something when this happened.
Yes.
Do we know, is he still alive?
Last I heard he was, but I believe he keeps to himself now.
No, I mean that's great. My thing is you know, the being told him someday you will get to see all of this, and I was just hopeful that he actually has been alive to basically heal, first of all, to heal some of the hurt that I'm sure he endured from all the ridicule, because even though yes, people are still going to ridicule others now, I feel like there's more of an understanding and a collective that are more supportive than that.
Right. If this were to happen now, I don't think he'd get near as much ridicule.
Well, I can guarantee he wouldn't have lost his job over it.
No, not now, no.
But again, 1967, different mindset.
Unfortunately, yeah. But I'm happy to hear that he's most likely still alive.
Yeah,
so
last I heard when I did research, he was still around.
Oh, good, good.
It's too bad he's not doing interviews or anything like that. That'd be great.
I can kind of understand why he wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and he would be, oh God, I'm really bad at math, but he would be fairly old at this point.
Yeah, he would. He'd probably be about the same age as I believe, like probably even my mom's age at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to get a calculator out and all of that, but yeah. All right. We'll go ahead and play the rest if that's all right with you.
Yep.
A gentleman by the name of John Aarons, who is a friend of mine, and a gentleman by the name of Roy Craig, who is a physicist. John Aarons, he'd probably hit me, but he was a shrink. A psychiatrist. Him and I had long discussions, and he told me to tell my story over and over and over and over, and I told it over and over and over and over. And then they found a 25-minute time lapse in my log. And John says, Herb, what happened to you between 2:30 a.m. December 3rd, 1967 and 3 a.m.? Or a little before 3 a.m.? And I looked at him, and I couldn't say anything because I didn't remember. So he says, you got to come to Boulder. I said, okay. So they took me up to Boulder, and I met a UFO team there of a lot of people who run a lot of tests on me, and a hypnotist by the name of Dr. Leo Sprinkler administered time regression hypnosis on me, which found out a small detail that I had been aboard the spacecraft and that I had actually communicated with them. They played the tape back to me and it shocked me. I didn't know what to think. I said, is that really my voice on that tape? You bet it is, boy. I says, my God, what do I do now? So while I was up in Boulder, the city got real cute, the city fathers and the people in the city. The day I left, matter of fact, the night I left, they went down to our beautiful cemetery there in Ashland, Nebraska, and took this dummy and hung it by the neck in a tree, and put a big star on it, shot a hose through it and painted the hose with red like blood, and put Herb across the star with a cowboy head on it. And they really made it look big because they went down to the mortuary and they got the ambulance out, a code 3 run, sirens, red lights, the whole works. Went over there and they very carefully took it down and put it on a stretcher and covered it up and took it back to the morgue. They thought they scared me, but they didn't. You see, that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to scare me, but they didn't scare me because I thought it was kind of funny, and I laughed about it when I read it in the paper and seen all the pictures and everything. But while I was in Boulder, they blew my car up with dynamite, and that really made me mad. I just got through paying for it.
Oh, man.
And I was furious. You know, I could have done like George C. Scott did in that movie Rage. You know, that's how mad I was. But through the whole crisis, I had one very good friend in Ashland, Nebraska. His name is Leroy Dimmitt. Very close friend. And he helped me a lot in Ashland. He was one of our relief officers in the police department. And I was really proud to have him as a friend as well. He stuck by. My family, I really can't say. I went to my father and I said, Dad, I said, I know you have 20-something years in the Air Force, but I asked my father point blank, I said, Dad, what do you think of UFOs? My father never said no, and he never said yes. He just said, son, if you're telling the truth, stick with it. And so I stuck with it. I thank you very much.
I really kind of feel bad. I mean, I don't kind of, I do. I feel bad for what he had to go through. They blew up his car. Like, what the fuck?
People are horrible. I always claim to not be human because I don't want to be part of a race that does that. But yeah, I did calculate, and if he was 20 years old, which we know he was in his 20s, so he was older than just 20. He'd be in his 80s.
Okay. So when
currently,
I decided to look up just a little snippet of information about Project Blue Book. Interestingly enough, they supposedly were disbanded in 1969. They went from 1952 to 1969.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Also, I did locate MUFON. I had been mispronouncing it. I thought it was MUFA, but it was MUFON. So if anybody listening has any UFO alien encounter, please get on to this website. It's MUFON.com and report. They will not make fun of you. They will believe you. It is a legit site. It is. I'm not making things up here at all. It's as you can see, it's super easy. It's very creditable. There are so many very smart people that help create this group, and yeah, they're not going to make fun of you at all. It's going to be a very, very great place for information and support.
That's good. That's good for people to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've run into a couple MUFON members periodically when we go to conferences and such. They tend to come to the conferences. Yeah,
that's awesome.
And I believe, it went from Project Blue Book and eventually just passed over to MUFON. But Blue Book really didn't end when they said it did. It actually went more underground and did.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured too. Like it says, according to Google, they disbanded or were terminated, but we all know.
No, there's still a variation of it out there now because they have basically UFO recovery teams and things of this nature. So there's variations of it.
Government
within
programs
the,
never truly end; they just change names.
Yeah, just like my grandfather said when they closed Lincoln Air Force Base, they said, yeah, he went closed because it went underground.
Right.
So
I'm sure there's a variation of the gate program, like what we've talked about before. I bet you it's still out there. It just has a different
absolutely.
name, or they're just more quiet about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Well-
they've covered this up for so long. It's like they're almost a no whole other breakaway at this point, essentially.
And so President Obama had said, well, I didn't see any in Area 51. They're not holding the aliens there. However, he never mentioned about all of the psychics that the government took and did remote viewing, and all of them said that they're inside certain mountains and areas like that.
I think Area 51 is actually a decoy. That's just my personal opinion.
Oh, it is.
I think that
See that.
I think people know it exists on purpose because they're keeping them somewhere else. They just want us to think that they're all there when they're really keeping them somewhere else.
Yeah, now it's a decoy. It used to be not a decoy until too many people were looking that direction. So now they use it as more of a decoy. But
That
back
makes
in the 80s, further back.
Remember a couple years back when there was the whole "let's invade Area 51"? People were Naruto running towards
I joined that. I didn't do it, but I joined the group.
Oh, yeah, I did too. Actually, I never went out there, but
Oh, me either. I've never been there before.
but apparently a lot of people did.
Oh yeah, there were millions, I believe, that did. So yeah,
I think there's still people that continue to try to go out there and storm it.
Yeah.
They don't get very far. I think there were a couple people in this giant group though that did make it to the facility, but then they got caught at the facility.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
I'm familiar, if I've heard correctly.
Oh yeah, yeah. Those guys don't play around out there. They basically have permission to shoot anybody.
Oh yeah, if you even get within like a couple of miles of it, because they patrol the area, they're like, "Hey, you got to leave."
Yeah. I mean, they know you're there before you can even say you're there, to be honest.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
Absolutely.
that's pretty much all I got on the subject. Anyone watching, let us know what you think. Leave a comment about it. If you live in the area, definitely let us know for sure.
Mhm.
Or if you live in an area that, you've seen stuff. I want to hear your story. I'm curious.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I love hearing people's personal experiences.
I do too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
There is a guest that I want to get on our show, and we probably will here in the next couple, month or so. And I know he's had encounters with the Men in Black. So,
Ooh, interesting. I definitely want to hear about that.
Yeah, they're creepy. So have I. So members of my family, they are creepy. So yeah.
Well, we know you're creepy.
Well, no, they're creepy.
But all right, that's pretty much all I got. Any of you got any last minute things to add?
not at this moment.
All right. Well, that is the story on the Ashland UFO incident. Thank you for coming and watching on the show. And for those who come and watch it later on, definitely give the stream a like. It helps with the algorithm. And we'll see you next Friday.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, everybody.